To understand the financial anatomy of a firm like Pearson Specter Litt, one must dismantle the myth of the high-rise office as a mere workplace. In the context of Midtown Manhattan, the iconic glass-walled suite overlooking the skyline is not an aesthetic choice. It is a fundamental business necessity, a primary driver of revenue, and a massive, crushing liability. The firm occupies multiple floors in a prime commercial real estate hub, where price per square foot regularly exceeds $100 annually. When we factor in the sheer square footage required for partner offices associate Bullpen's high-end boardrooms and the various lounges used to project an image of effortless success, we are looking at a rental footprint that easily exceeds 40,000 square feet. For a Tier 1 firm, this translates to annual lease costs hovering in the range of $4 to $6 million. This is the baseline, the starting ante for the privilege of existing in the same ecosystem as the Fortune 500 companies the partners claim to represent. Every piece of mahogany, every designer chair, and every floor-to-ceiling window is a silent invoice, a constant ticking drain on the firm's capital that demands a relentless intake of billable hours just to keep the doors unlocked. The environment acts as a signal, a visual shorthand for a firm that is too big to fail, and the cost of maintaining that signal is an astronomical, non-negotiable expense. Beyond rent, we must consider the psychological architecture. The offices are designed to intimidate. The high ceilings and unobstructed views are a spatial manifestation of the power gap between the lawyer and the client. When a client walks into Harvey's office, the environment is engineered to make them feel small and in need of the protection only Pearson Specter can provide. This architecture of authority is a marketing strategy in its own right. Maintaining this level of interior design, the high-end art, the custom millwork, the climate control systems, requires an entire division of facilities management. It is an endless cycle of renovation and upkeep. When the carpet wears thin, the brand image slips, and in this echelon of law, a slipped image is a lost client. We aren't just talking about office rent. We are talking about the cost of maintaining a cathedral of capitalism, where every square foot is a billboard for the firm's dominance. Beyond the physical shell, the true engine of any top-tier law firm is its human capital. A firm like Pearson Specter Litt operates on a pyramid structure that is as brutal as it is profitable. At the base, we have a small army of associates, brilliant, sleep-deprived graduates from the country's most elite law schools. These individuals are not just employees, they are investments, and their cost is immense. With starting salaries pushing toward $200,000, plus signing bonuses and the massive overhead of benefits, the total annual compensation package for a single high-performing associate can quickly reach $250,000. With a firm of this size, employing dozens of associates, the payroll for junior and mid-level lawyers alone consumes $30 to $40 million annually. But this cost does not exist in a vacuum. It is leveraged against the partner's expectations of productivity. Every junior associate is expected to bill upwards of 2,500 hours a year, a target that necessitates round-the-clock office presence, constant access to the firm's infrastructure, and inevitably, the support staff required to keep the gears turning. This is a high-turnover, high-burnout machine. The cost of replacing an associate who crashes under the pressure, recruitment fees, training time, the loss of institutional knowledge is yet another hidden, staggering variable in the annual budget. The firm isn't just paying for legal minds. It is paying for the exhaustion and the relentless, standardized output of highly specialized intellectual labor. To analyze this, we have to look at the attrition tax. When a brilliant Harvard Law graduate burns out after 2 years, the firm has lost the thousands of dollars spent on their onboarding and the thousands more in lost efficiency during their wrap-up phase. The culture of the firm, while elite, is essentially a meat grinder that converts high-potential talent into billable hours. The psychological cost is severe. The constant pressure to perform leads to a culture of competition where even colleagues are seen as threats to one's own tenure. This internal volatility is managed by high salaries, but those salaries represent a massive fixed cost that the firm must satisfy regardless of how many cases they win. If a market downturn occurs, the payroll doesn't shrink, but the revenue does. This rigidity makes the firm's workforce a liability as much as an asset. The firm is essentially betting its future on the idea that they can outwork and outbill their competitors, relying on an endless stream of hungry, replaceable talent who are willing to sacrifice their personal lives at the altar of the firm's bottom line. It is a fragile equilibrium held together by the promise of future partnership and the immediate allure of a massive paycheck. If the lawyers are the engine, the administrative and support staff are the transmission and the oil. A firm of this stature cannot function without a robust layer of paralegals, legal secretaries, office managers, IT specialists, and, perhaps most importantly, a security and janitorial team. These are the people who manage the document flow, organize the chaotic schedules of partners like Harvey Specter, and ensure that the digital integrity of sensitive case files remains unbreached. In a high-pressure 24-hour environment, the support staff must be numerous and highly specialized. We are looking at a support ratio of roughly 1 administrative person for every 3 lawyers. With dozens of staff members, the payroll and benefits burden here is substantial, adding another $10 to $15 million to the operating costs. Beyond salaries, there is the massive overhead of information technology. A modern law firm is a data fortress. The cost of specialized legal software, secure cloud storage, high-level cybersecurity protocols to protect client privilege, and the maintenance of a sophisticated internal network is an often overlooked but crucial line item. Security breaches are not just an operational error, they are a death sentence for a firm's reputation. Thus, Pearson Specter Litt spends millions annually on digital defense, constant audits, and hardware refreshes, ensuring that their technological capabilities match the premium fees they charge their clients. The support structure is the silent and visible weight that enables the high-flying theatrics of the partners. This infrastructure goes beyond mere utility. It is the backbone of the firm's reliability. When Donna Paulson manages Harvey's calendar, she is essentially managing the firm's time, which is its most precious inventory. Every minute of a partner's time is worth hundreds of dollars, so the efficiency of the support staff is a direct multiplier of the firm's revenue. If the servers go down or the document management system fails, the firm loses money by the second. This leads to an insurance policy mindset in IT, spending millions on redundant systems and elite security, not because they are profitable in themselves, but because the cost of failure is infinite. The support staff, therefore, are not just employees, they are risk mitigators. They protect the firm from the human errors that could lead to disbarment or catastrophic loss. This layer of the firm is often ignored by observers who focus on the stars of the courtroom. But without this expensive and visible administrative apparatus, the entire structure would collapse into chaos within hours. It is an expensive necessity, a constant rolling cost of doing business in a world where information is the most valuable currency. Then there is the expense of the business itself, the actual process of litigation and corporate counsel. This is where the firm's expenses move from fixed to variable. Litigation is an incredibly resource-intensive process. It involves massive document discovery, expensive expert witnesses, international travel, high-end research databases like Westlaw or LexisNexis, and the cost associated with court filings and arbitration. While many of these costs are passed on to the client, the firm must maintain a massive line of credit to finance these cases for months or even years before they are recovered. The interest on this operating capital alone is a multi-million-dollar expense. Then consider the professional services, the consultants, private investigators, forensic accountants, and public relations experts that are regularly deployed to shape the narrative or uncover the evidence needed to win when Harvey Specter needs to pressure a rival firm. It isn't just his reputation on the line, it's the firm's treasury. The cost of maintaining their aggressive, win-at-all-costs brand is the most unpredictable expense on a balance sheet. They are effectively financing a small war every time they enter the boardroom. These expenses are not just for the case at hand, they are for the continued maintenance of the firm's lethal brand identity. Every dollar spent on a top-tier investigator or a crisis PR firm is an investment in the firm's ability to charge higher hourly rates in the future. It is a feedback loop of high costs and high billables. This is what we might call litigation theater. Much of what happens in these cases is not strictly about the law. It is about performance, posturing, and the psychological dominance of the opponent. The firm spends millions on private investigators because the threat of having one's secrets unearthed is often enough to force a settlement. They spend on PR because controlling the narrative is just as important as winning the legal argument. This creates a high-stakes environment where the firm is constantly spending money to maintain the image of being untouchable. It is an arms race against their competitors. If a rival firm spends $1 million on a PR blitz, Pearson Specter has to spend $2 million to counteract it. It is an incredibly expensive game of high-stakes poker, where the chips are paid for by the firm's operating budget. This, in turn, keeps the hourly rate of their associates and partners at a premium level. The firm has to be expensive because their methods of operation are incredibly costly. They are not selling justice, they are selling the crushing weight of their entire firm, deployed to ensure that their client comes out on top at any cost. There are the costs that exist outside the spreadsheet, yet dictate everything on it: the firm's location, its branding, and its reputation are essentially a form of self-imposed taxation. When your reputation is built on being the best, you cannot cut corners, even when the firm is facing a liquidity crisis. You have to maintain appearances. This means keeping the offices furnished at the highest level, hosting lavish client dinners, sponsoring high-profile events, and maintaining memberships in the most exclusive clubs. These are not merely business expenses. They are marketing costs disguised as overhead. The firm is selling confidence. If the decor looks cheap, if the drinks are budget tier, or if the partners seem stressed about their margins, the clients will sense it, and they will leave. There is a constant, suffocating need to project wealth and stability regardless of the actual internal cash flow. This creates an environment where the firm is essentially forced to pay a premium for its own image. Whether it's the cost of a private jet for a cross-country client negotiation, or the thousands spent on top-tier legal journals and firm-wide subscriptions, every detail must radiate power. This is the luxury tax of elite law, and it is a tax that never goes away, regardless of the firm's performance or market volatility. It is a perpetual maintenance cost on the firm's primary asset, its ego. This ego is also a liability. It prevents the firm from acting rationally during downturns because they are afraid that cost-cutting will look like weakness. In the world of high-stakes law, the appearance of having money is almost as important as actually having it. This creates a dangerous feedback loop where the firm must always act as if it is performing perfectly, which prevents them from making the necessary adjustments to become more efficient. They are trapped by their own myth. The partners are forced to live in a world of high-end suits, luxury transport, and exclusive social circles, all of which are paid for either directly or indirectly by the firm. Every partner is essentially a walking billboard for the firm's success, and that success is maintained through a relentless commitment to, and expenditure on, status signaling. It is a heavy tax, one that keeps the firm constantly needing to generate massive revenue, not just to thrive, but simply to keep up the charade of their own preeminence. It's an expensive performance, but in their world, if the performance stops, the money stops too. In a firm where the stakes are consistently in the billions, professional liability is a colossal concern. Legal malpractice insurance for a firm of this size is a monstrous expense because the firm deals with high-stakes corporate mergers, hostile takeovers, and criminal litigation for the elite. The potential for catastrophic failure is always present. One wrong document, one missed deadline, or one ethical oversight could trigger a lawsuit that threatens the firm's existence. Premiums for this level of coverage reach into the millions of dollars annually. Insurance companies scrutinize these firms with a level of rigor that borders on paranoia, requiring strict internal compliance protocols, continuous training, and independent auditing of all major files. This compliance culture adds another layer of administrative cost, as the firm must employ dedicated teams to ensure they aren't just winning cases, but winning them legally and ethically enough to satisfy the underwriters. This insurance is not optional. It is the safety net that prevents a single bad partner decision from bankrupting every equity owner in the room. Even when things go right, the insurance premiums continue to climb, a reflection of the inherent risks taken by lawyers who regularly operate on the edge of professional conduct. It is a silent tax on success, and in the case of a firm as aggressive as Pearson Specter Litt, that tax is exponentially higher than that of their more conservative, risk-averse competitors. This is the risk multiplier effect. By choosing to take on high-risk, high-reward clients, the firm automatically accepts a higher level of exposure. The insurance premiums serve as a constant reminder of how close they are to the precipice. Every time Harvey makes a move that borders on the unethical, the firm's potential liability grows, which in turn spikes the insurance cost. It's a delicate balancing act. They have to push the limits to win, but they have to pull back just enough to keep their malpractice insurance from becoming too expensive. The compliance departments are the unsung heroes of this dynamic, constantly reviewing contracts and files to ensure that even if the law is bent, it is never broken to a point where the insurance company would void the policy. This requires an entire subsector of the firm dedicated to defensive law, which is effectively spending money to avoid losing money. It is a massive, ongoing expense that adds no value to the client, but is essential for the survival of the entity itself. The insurance is essentially a tax on the firm's ambition, paid out every year so they can continue to take the risks that make them famous. Ultimately, the firm's goal is to produce enough revenue to cover these massive operational costs and still have enough profit left over to justify the partners' take-home pay. Unlike a traditional corporation, a law firm operates as a partnership, meaning the partners are the owners, the managers, and the primary earners. Once the lights are paid, the associates are compensated, the rent is settled, and the insurance premiums are covered. The remainder of the profit pool is distributed according to the partnership agreement. In a firm like this, the equity partners are essentially underwriting their own salaries through the immense hourly billing rates they demand. To earn a seat at the table and a cut of the profits, a partner must be a rainmaker, someone who brings in millions of dollars in business annually. The pressure to sustain these earnings is what keeps the entire structure alive. It is a brutal, high-stakes game of musical chairs, where the music never stops. If the billable hours dip, or if a major client leaves, the partners don't just lose their bonus, they have to cover the shortfall personally. This is the ultimate, unspoken cost of running the firm, the requirement of total financial commitment from its leadership. Every partner is an individual investor in the firm's success, and that success is measured not just in wins, but in the sheer scale of the overhead they can manage to keep profitable month after month. The psychological burden here cannot be overstated. A partner is never off the clock. Their worth is tied directly to their ability to produce revenue, and the constant threat of being voted out or having their points reduced creates an incredibly cutthroat environment. The partners are essentially competing with each other for the firm's limited resources and the credit for bringing in high-value clients. This internal competition, while driving performance, also creates a fragile culture where trust is thin. They are unified by the money, but divided by the hunger for it. The payout structure is designed to reward the biggest producers, but it also creates a situation where a single bad year can ruin a partner's financial standing. It's a high-pressure, high-reward model that keeps the firm sharp, but also keeps the partners perpetually on edge. They aren't just lawyers. They are small business owners who have bet their life savings and their careers on the firm's continued ability to dominate the legal landscape. It's a relentless, high-stakes existence where the payout is massive, but the cost of entry is total commitment to the grinding engine of the firm. When we tally the rent, the payroll, the benefits, the insurance, the technology, and the massive, unquantifiable cost of maintaining an image of elite invincibility, we arrive at an annual operating budget that is staggering by any normal standard. Pearson Specter Litt likely burns through upwards of $150 to $200 million every year just to keep the status quo. It is a machine that requires a constant, massive influx of capital to avoid seizing up, and that pressure filters down from the named partners to the lowest-ranking intern. The cost of running the firm is the cost of buying a seat at the top of the food chain, where the air is thin and the consequences of a stumble are total. It reveals the fundamental truth about corporate law. It is a high-overhead, high-risk business that disguises its own fragility behind marble lobbies and bespoke suits. You are not paying for a lawyer. You are paying for the massive infrastructure required to shield you from the chaos of the world, and that protection is priced accordingly. It is a testament to the firm's resilience that they can sustain this level of spending while remaining profitable. A delicate balancing act performed daily in the pursuit of absolute, unassailable power. The firm lives in the gap between the expense and the billable hour, a precarious, expensive existence that makes their victories not just personal, but financial necessities for the entire institution. Ultimately, the cost of Pearson Specter Litt is the price of maintaining an illusion of permanence in an industry that is defined by volatility. They spend millions on art, on real estate, on salaries, and on insurance, not because they are inherently valuable, but because they are the tools needed to signal that this firm is a place where problems go to be solved. The irony is that the firm itself is one of the most complex, high-maintenance problems that the partners have to manage. Their success is their burden. They have created an entity so large and so expensive that it must continue to win, continue to grow, and continue to bill, simply to sustain the infrastructure they have built around themselves. It is a high-stakes, high-cost performance that represents the absolute pinnacle of corporate law, a beautiful, fragile, and astronomically expensive architecture of success that demands everything from everyone who enters its doors. In the end, they are only as strong as their next win, and the cost of losing is something they can never, ever afford.